Yes, the trade talks are continuing here, because that's one topic that we all love to converse about. Even though the deadline is currently months away, the media has been doing what it does best by giving us some real interesting scenarios with destinations that are plausible for these players. With the exception of one isolated situation, which is Evander Kane's, these players are all, if they aren't already, going to be some major trade bait for their teams moving forward. In this video, we're going to discuss the overall outlook for each player's future and where they may end up. And with that, here are 4 NHL players who could have new teams very soon. Since being selected by the San Jose Sharks, Thomas Hertl has been a true lifer in the Bay Area. Despite the Sharks' struggles within recent years to remain competitive, Hertl has remained as one of the bright spots in the lineup. So far this season, the forward has already notched 20 goals in just 36 games played and has recorded 31 points in total. Considering where his team is and has been headed, combined with his pending UFA status, this has given the media and the hockey world in general a reason to be curious about Hertl's future in San Jose. Not only has Hertl remained offensively productive throughout his tenure as a Shark, but has also become a fan favorite due to mostly his charismatic personality. If San Jose does part with Hertl, it'll be largely on his terms, as the forward has a modified no trade clause in effect, which limits the possible teams that he can be dealt to, which are 3 of his choosing. Currently finishing up his final year of his 4-year, $22.5 million contract with a 5.6 AAV, Hertl would be an instant grab to any contending team that's looking to boost their scoring and depth in their top 6. A few teams that could be looking to take that extra step going into the postseason are Minnesota, Boston, Colorado, and the New York Rangers. Colorado, in my opinion, needs him the least out of all of these, considering how dominant Nazem Kadri has been this season as the second-line center. Minnesota has had a need for a solidified top center for a while now, but it's more about if Hertl would want to go there. That leaves Boston and the New York Rangers. Boston definitely has a need with David Krejci gone, and lots of assets to offer up, such as Charlie Coyle, Jake DeBrusk, and their 2022 first-round pick. David Pastrnak is a fellow countryman for Hertl, so that could also be appealing. And lastly, New York City seems like an atmosphere where Hertl would shine. We've seen personalities such as Artemi Panarin thrive in the spotlight there. They're also having a breakout year as a team and could easily afford him. And yet another player who spent a lengthy chunk of time playing for the team that once drafted him, Claude Giroux, at 33 years of age, could very well be on the move this season. Similarly to Hertl, Giroux is and has been playing for a team that hasn't been a true contender for quite some time now. But the sad part of this scenario is that many expected Philadelphia to have a much better season this time around following a slew of off-season acquisitions. Looking at the captain's contract that's set to expire, it's looking to be highly probable that he chooses to chase the Stanley Cup elsewhere this postseason. NHL insider Elliot Friedman echoed this while saying, quote, "I would bet that Claude Giroux gets traded. I just think they have to figure out between him and them where he's going to go." End quote. Obviously, for Giroux to be moved, 1, he'd have to give the consent as he has a full no-move clause on his contract, and 2, Philly would likely have to retain some salary in order to get interest. Since Giroux is also a center who is still capable of being a number 1, the same teams will likely be inquiring about Giroux's services as Hertl's. With a full no-move clause, though, he'd have to give the okay on the deal. Knowing that the Rangers are in the same conference as the Flyers makes that less likely than Hertl, I'd say. Boston, a maybe, even though they're known rivals. Colorado would seem appealing if Sakic decides that there's a need. And lastly, my top choice would be Minnesota. Given Giroux's playing style and how the Wild are structured, I could see Giroux blending in very nicely there. Since it's hard to tell where Giroux would want to go, that would be, in my opinion, the best fit. With salary retained, it could be affordable, and the Wild have picks and prospects to offer. I know, it seems like Jakob Chychrun's name has been in every member of hockey media's mouth on a loop this season, but for the sake of relevance here, I decided to include the defenseman on my list. Like the other players we've mentioned so far, Chychrun is on a team that's not making the playoffs. In fact, the Coyotes have the worst win percentage currently out of the entire league, if you didn't already know, with a .258. With that being said, it's understandable as to why Chychrun's name would be mentioned in trade rumors. Uncertainty has been the name of the game for Arizona for a while now, so while they're trying to reset and rebuild, it's likely they'll be listening in on offers for the star defenseman. Chychrun, who led all defensemen in goals in the shortened season last campaign with 18, finished 10th in Norris voting in result. Given his offensive talents, skating ability, and the physicality he presents on ice, Sportsnet's insider Jeff Merrick has indicated that at least 10 teams have shown interest already in Chychrun. For potential suitors, though, he's going to come at a high price that will be similar, Merrick reported, as a former Brent Burns trade from Minnesota to San Jose, which was a young roster player, prospect, and a first-rounder. So that will narrow things down to who could afford such an asking price. Also from Merrick, the St. Louis Blues, Anaheim Ducks, and Los Angeles Kings are a few teams that could meet those requirements. Certainly, out of these, the Blues are the contender, but at the same time, they still have the assets to swing such a deal. They have a first-round pick for the next 3 drafts, Robert Thomas and/or Jordan Kyrou to offer up, and there's the whole Armstrong connection, as both Doug and Bill previously worked together for the Blues organization. The Los Angeles Kings have one of the best prospect pools in the league and could be making that playoff push. As for Anaheim, the looming question will ultimately be if they're at that point in time yet, culturally, to really part with a high-end prospect. I'll quickly list the slew of other teams that have been tied to Chychrun. It's pretty crazy how many there are, but in my opinion, it's evidence of supply and demand. And lastly on this list, we've saved the juiciest part for last. Most of you, I'm sure, are well aware at this point that Evander Kane is in the process of parting ways with the San Jose Sharks for good, following contract termination. He has filed a grievance and will be seeking some of the salary owed, but simultaneously will be considering his options as Elliot Friedman believes many teams will be interested. Kane would be easy to look to for teams in need of scoring in the top 6 and also want to add a sandpaper style of game to their lineup. As we know, Kane plays exactly that. The big deterrent, however, for contenders is obviously going to be the baggage that Kane will likely bring to the locker room. Over time, Kane has demonstrated that he's no stranger to controversy and has struggled to coexist on multiple NHL rosters in his career thus far. A couple teams to consider here for the forward are the Edmonton Oilers and the Carolina Hurricanes. Reason being, for Edmonton, well, TSN insider Darren Drager has reported that Edmonton has already reached out to Kane, showing interest. Holland, along with head coach Dave Tippett, are currently in the hot seat as the team has been struggling immensely as of late. It would make sense for Holland to try something bold, considering the state of the franchise. As for Carolina, the same GM that once drafted Kane and also gave Tony DeAngelo another chance, and Don Waddell is the current GM for the club. Therefore, knowing that Waddell enjoys a good bang for his buck, he could also try and sign Kane at a discounted price while considering his past antics like he did with DeAngelo. Regardless, Elliot Friedman believes that there will be tons of interest in Kane once he formally hits the market.